I'm going to pivot because I think, Ben, you mentioned something earlier on about cyber, and clearly with Iran being a threat actor. Seth, I'm going to come back to you. I believe you've said publicly that cyber is integrated into all aspects of security and that companies underestimate their vulnerability on the cyber side relative to physical risk. So, in the context of this conflict, what does that mean for a company that has no physical assets in the Middle East, but has vendors, partners, or customers that do? And what would an Iranian cyber operation targeting Western energy infrastructure look like? And would most companies recognize it before it caused damage? That's like a lot of questions all at once, but
There's a lot of questions. I'm going to do my
sorry.
best to wade through them all.
Thank
I
you.
think the number one realization for anyone in the corporate space is that U.S. businesses, and think of that public facing executives, are now targets. And that's been one of the big changes that we've seen probably over the last 5 to 10 years, whether it's on the cyber side or really in the last year or two, the targeting of physically CEOs and other executives. So once you recognize that you are a fair game in this sort of modern war that we're in now, where the conflicts just keep rolling throughout the globe, then you can take those steps to protect yourself. In the case of Iran, probably about 2 weeks ago, IRGC came out and said, hey, we are going to target 18 specific US companies. And they came out in public and said, you are now on our targeting list. 17 of those 18 were, frankly, our top tech companies. And then JP Morgan Chase got unceremoniously thrown on there as well. And the reason Iran fights in this case, because they have to fight us asymmetrically. They can't go toe to toe with our military. The reality is nobody really out there can. So what they're going to lean on heavily are cyber attacks and their proxy armies that they've built out over 47 years. These are going to be their main weapon systems to try to inflict damage to the United States. They can't reach us with missiles. They can't reach us with drones. Yes, they can target some of our bases and some of our other assets in the region. But the reality is, if they want to do parity strikes, we strike their infrastructure, the easiest way for them to attack the United States mainland is to attack us via cyber. And so here's what their strategy looks like. First is disruption. Can I disrupt a US company? Can I get in there and wipe out all of their important information, their intellectual property, things they need for that company to be successful? Or can I create outages? Can I absolutely shut down the services they're providing? Can all of a sudden I swipe my credit card? It won't work. The other piece they do is they lean forward and they go, hey, am I able to do a successful phishing attack to pre-position my attack for later? They're doing that as we speak, and they've already done it. And probably a lot of the people that are on this call, Iran has already pre-positioned some sort of agent inside of your system, or has attempted to. They're going to look at critical infrastructure targeting. And this is really key. Think water sectors, energy sectors. Those are on the top of their targeting list when they look at their cyber attacks. And then what they're going to do is they're going to try to complicate the space. They're going to have proxies or hacktivists take credit for the attack, when in reality it was a nation state, Iranian cyber dens that were out there, their bot farms and all of their nefarious actors that are using hacktivists or proxies to basically be the face of what they're doing. And make no mistake, this is all coordinated. This isn't just a single strike that's out there. They're doing this in concert with their proxy forces, with their disinformation campaigns to try to create as much turbulence as they can. Okay, so what have they done so far? Because make no mistake, Iran is conducting cyber attacks right now against U.S. businesses. They have been, and they're going to continue to into the undetermined future. So we can think of Stryker that does all the medical support to hospitals, whether it's beds, whether it's systems. They were a victim of a very large-scale Iranian cyber attack that created disruption within their services to be able to support the medical industry. We continue to see critical infrastructure attack after attack, oil pipelines, water networks, and they are already inside of U.S. networks, and they're continuing to build out into those. And think about it from their perspective. for the last, say, 40 years, or really, say, 20, it's been espionage. Hey, what can we steal from the United States? What can we learn? What can we reproduce? Now it's in this disruption phase. And then the reality is, if they were in charge and they could really create something today, it would then have some sort of potential physical impact to create an explosion in the United States, to create some sort of havoc or crisis on the ground. That's what they're working towards. So all of that cyber work is now also in concert with all of their proxy armies, whether it's the, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, who have been very quiet, but they're still in play and really represent one of the biggest risks that's still out there that hasn't been activated yet. And on top of all of their military strikes that they're capable of doing. So it's all working in concert together, but cyber is one of their core pillars. And frankly, they can attack you, and they have been attacking us now for many, many decades.
Okay, I'm reasonably frightened. So thanks for that. And in case you're not following the chat, Jen Cox did mention in the chat that NACD is releasing their updated cyber handbook today. So just keep that in mind. Tina, I'm going to come to you because, from your perspective on the cyber front, what should boards of pipelines and midstream companies be asking their management teams right now when it comes to both the physical and the cybersecurity of our North American pipeline assets?
Really, the starting point today is really recognizing that physical and cybersecurity are no longer separate conversations. They have converging risks to critical infrastructure. So the first question I believe boards should be asking is about threat awareness and prioritization. So what threats, cyber, physical, or hybrid, are we actually planning against? So federal agencies and industry groups have made it very clear that pipelines are attractive targets for nation states, criminals, and domestic extremists, and that those threats are evolving in both the cyber and physical domains. Second is, who owns governance and accountability? Who owns security at the enterprise level? And how often does this come to the board? And do the directors have visibility into those leading indicators and not just compliance reports? We're seeing that regulators are increasingly expecting cybersecurity to be managed at an enterprise level and as an enterprise risk and not an IT issue. Third, I look at how segregated and protected are OT and SCADA systems. So OT, operational technologies, the hardware and software that directly monitor and control the physical equipment, and the SCADA systems monitor and control operations, usually across a wide geographic area. How confident are we that an intrusion couldn't cascade into a physical shutdown? So there's federal initiatives led by CISA and TSA that continue to highlight those vulnerabilities in pipeline control systems and the need for continuing testing and mitigation. Fourth, physical asset protection. Have we identified our most critical facilities and our controls? So monitoring, access management, patrols, intelligence sharing. Are those controls aligned with today's threat environment? So pipelines are geographically dispersed, stationary, and difficult to fully harden. So that requires disciplined risk-based prioritization. Fifth is, have we stress tested incident readiness? We stress tested cyber and physical incident response with realistic scenarios, including coordination with government agencies. We run a lot of what if scenarios. We have people constantly working to try to infiltrate our systems that work for us. And we have the other side of that equation, stopping them from infiltrating. So how are you coordinating that? How are you developing realistic scenarios to understand whether you're incident ready? And so I think the bottom line is really that security isn't about preventing every incident. It's about ensuring the company can detect, can contain, can recover, and continue operating in an environment where pipelines are recognized as critical national infrastructure. We have to move from checking the box to really testing resilience.
Does that include having boards doing tabletop exercises alongside management, or I'm just curious your perspective there?
Yes, we have elevated a lot of tabletop exercises to an ELT level and now looking at board opportunities to do that as well. We've also looked into peek under the curtain related to how these blue team, red teams work behind the scenes to test all the resiliencies of our systems.